couples from this new season of Love After Lockup that I'm really excited to see. In particular, I'm really excited to see Trent and Nita and Cameo, because they're not just a couple, they're a full-on throuple, and they're also on the season of This Is Poly, which covers poly couples, that airs right after the new episodes of Love After Lockup. There's a few things I find interesting about this couple, but one thing I think that's very interesting is the fact, okay, we have Cameo, she's 54. She's married to this guy named Trent. He's 55. They're high school sweethearts. They've been together for years. And they ended up meeting this girl by the name of Nita at this, like, swingers party, like 7 or 8 years ago. They ended up hitting it off after Nita walked up and started hitting on Cameo, and she's like, I don't care what I gotta do, but I'm gonna find one way or another to get to you, even if I have to screw your husband Trent. And after that, they've just been talking nonstop, and they've been together, and Cameo really has a special place in her heart for Nita. Well, what I find interesting is the fact that Nita is in jail after she got arrested for a DUI, but she's only been in jail for 2 months. Most people on this show, we see them coming from prison to be on the show, and I think this is one of the first cast members that we've seen actually just get out of normal jail and only do a few months and actually be on this season. I feel like if they start casting people who were in jail just for like a month or two, they'd have a lot more potential cast members. But I think WeTV was willing to work with them here because the fact that they're a throuple and the fact that they're one of the first throuples to willingly be a throuple on this show, not people who are like Damon trying to say, oh, we're going to have a poly relationship, but Damon's the only one who knows about it at the time. People who are in poly relationships are usually known for living outside the box, so it was no surprise to me when I found out that Trent and Cameo, when they were younger, they were part of this cult for years, and I guess they come from a really religious family that was part of this cult, but I guess once they were, younger and their son was born, their son was diagnosed with this disease that kind of just ate away at his muscles, and eventually he was in a wheelchair, and he tragically lost his life when he was 15 years old as a result of that disease. And instead of the church that they're going to being empathetic towards their situation, the church was scolding them and saying, oh yeah, that must have happened to your son because you must have been living in sin. Man, I would have lost my shit. If I'm literally going through the worst time of my life, this is like the worst thing that's probably ever happened to them in their whole lives, and instead of being there for them, the church wants to kick them while they're down. That church has some damn audacity, and after they heard that, they started to see through the cult, and they're like, yeah, this is not something that I want to be involved with anymore. So Cameo and Trent decided to make the conscious decision to pack their bags and leave, and later on down the road, that's when they decided that they want to start exploring polygamy. To me, it makes a lot of sense why they would go from being in a cult to seeking a polygamous relationship for several reasons. Because when you're in a cult, it's so strongly controlled. They want to control who you marry, when you can get married, when you can have children, how many children you have, and they enforce strict celibacy. Leaving a cult and getting into polygamy is the ultimate act of self-determination. It's literally picking your own destiny, which is the exact opposite of this cult that they grew up in. And also, I think a lot of it has to do with the community. When you grow up in a cult, I think more than anything, people crave the community that is part of the cult and being around people every single day and kind of having like a built-in family. Like with all couples on this show, I started off with feeling really happy for this couple. I mean, it seems like Nita really makes Trent and Cameo really happy. I mean, look at that guy cheesing back there. He is living his best life. And even Cameo, she's constantly cheesing like a little schoolgirl. You can tell they really care about Cameo. Or not Cameo, but Nita. But here's the thing that I'm concerned with. So this girl just got out of jail for a DUI. And this isn't her first DUI. This is her third DUI. And she ended up hitting a vehicle while she was drunk. 3 DUIs? Like, you risk getting tried as a habitual offender at that point, depending on what state you're in. I don't know. The way she talked about her third DUI, it seemed like she was excited about it. It seemed like she was boasting about it. I'm like, okay, have you really learned your lesson at this point? And then once she got out, that just confirmed to me that she hasn't, because as soon as she got out of jail, she was literally hugging all over Cammy, and then she turns to Trent and she's like, where's my alcohol? I need my alcohol now. And they're like, hey, we might need to get off the property first. But no, she couldn't even wait to get back to the car or even get to the parking lot. She had to make sure they had alcohol ready for her with a glass so she could take a big old drink right in front of the jail doors, fresh out of jail. I'm like, girl, do you want to go back? And I'm pretty sure this is their third DUI, that you're likely going to be on some kind of probation or parole now, probably probation since she got out of jail, and you're likely going to have rules that you cannot drink. And I know alcohol won't show up in your system after 24 hours, but still, it's just risky. It's telling me like you haven't really learned your lesson. She downed some alcohol, and then they all got in the car and they went back to the house. And she has her own bedroom at this house. It looks like she was staying with them before she went to jail. So I kind of have some confidence that this poly couple might actually work out, since they have so much history together. And you can tell that they're all really into each other. And you can tell that Cammy and Trent don't really have a lot of jealousy. It seems like they've gotten past that point in their lives. And the crazy part is, Cammy's not even into women, but I guess she's willing to make an exception for Nita. After Nita started pursuing her, she started thinking, hey, maybe I do kind of got a thing for women. It does seem like Nita's more focused on Cammy than she is on Cammy's husband. I think that's a good balance, but you can tell she's definitely interested in Trent as well. And once they got back to the house, they all got in the hot tub. Then they all went to the bedroom, had some sexy time. They woke up the next morning, and you could tell that they really enjoyed getting it in, because they're all walking around gloating, feeling on top of the world. And then they decided to take Nita to her probation officer, which is another thing. You know, I was just talking about at the beginning of the video, it may not be smart with her drinking if she's going to be on probation. And that confirmed, yeah, she's going to be on probation. It sounds like she didn't have to drop or anything. But if I was her, I would not be drinking, or at least be drinking near when she has to go see her probation officer. She needs to be very careful. And the thing is, Trent and Cammy decided to spend $5,000 on this ring, and it's supposed to be like a commitment ring to Nita. And I understand where they're coming from, and I think it is a kind gesture, because they said, look, you know, we've been together for years, and it can be intimidating for someone coming into our relationship or our marriage when we've been together for so long. And I kind of feel like that's the case for a lot of poly couples, like the Merrifields from Seeking Sister Wife, for example. I feel like a lot of the women that would come into the picture would kind of feel, you know, intimidated by the fact that, okay, she's been here for so long. I'm afraid that she may have more pull than I'm comfortable with, or I may not feel like I'm an equal. And they want to make sure that Nita feels like an equal, even though she's not legally married to them. So they sat her down, they got a cookie, and they put the ring in the cookie. They gave it to Nita, and Nita was like, well, what is this supposed to mean? Because they really didn't explain what it was for. And like, yeah, this is a commitment ring. We want you to feel like an equal, and we want you to feel assured that we're not going to leave you, that you're part of our family. And it seemed like Nita had mixed emotions over the commitment ring. I thought she was going to be super excited, like she had been the whole episode. But she seemed excited, but then she was telling producers behind the scenes that, okay, yeah, I would have never done this when it came to Cammy, because I just feel like this is too fast, and she didn't seem too comfortable with the idea of getting the ring, but she was real quick to take the ring. I just don't think this was the best decision on Cammy and Trent's part. I know that they're excited and they want her to feel like an equal, but she literally just got out of jail, and she was chugging alcohol on the freaking steps of the jail, fresh out the door of the jail, and she couldn't even control herself to the parking lot. So I feel like they should at least gave her some time to prove herself first, and at least wait like a few months to make sure she's gonna do what she needs to do to stay out of jail and stay out of trouble. Because I feel like giving them this ring, and as she turns around and gets in more trouble, that's just gonna hurt them even more in the long run. And then we find out that Nita has struggled with alcohol in the past, but she's also struggled with drugs, and she said that she's clean off meth, and because of that she has to go do some classes because they want her to stay sober. So it definitely seems like whenever she was on meth, it wasn't too far away from when she filmed, because as she's still having to do classes for it, this had to be like within the last few years that she was using. And I do have fears that of her switching her DOC, drug of choice, from meth to alcohol, because I see a lot of people do that. You know, they think, oh, well, alcohol's legal, I can control it, and I hope that's the case for her. And I'm not saying just because you're on meth you shouldn't be able to never drink again, but if the first thing you do as soon as you get out of jail is take a drink, and not just take a drink, she was chugging that shit, it just demonstrates your inability to stop, even if it's just temporarily. The fact that you couldn't just wait till you get to the parking lot, it kind of shows that your psychological and physical compulsions when it comes to drinking completely override any logic, self-preservation, and that can be concerning. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about Cammy, Trent, and Nita in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for watching.